Well, hello and welcome to the wrap. Today is Thursday, June 29th. This is episode number 50 of the wrap, a show rounding up all things Zwift for the week, racing events, tech, fashion, you name it. We're live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. It's also a podcast that you can download. Head on over to ZwiftCommunityLive.com or search the wrap on anywhere. Is the Zwift and the wrap anywhere that you do download your podcast, and you will be able to find it. I'm Nathan Guerra. Anna Russel is sat next to me. We are both from the dairy lands of our countries, but she is from New Zealand and I am from Wisconsin. And today we're going to be talking to James Barnes, inaugural Olympic Esport Finals winner, we can now say, for the first time, I think, in history and all things related to virtual cycling. We're also going to be talking about Eurobike and a new app that was spotted there. They seem to be popping up left and right. Zwift now has Zwift Racing Score, interesting enough, that has been launched. Looks like a soft launch and some kind of a beta of that, or at least in some ways it's being introduced and then expanded on. And outside of that, we also have the Climb Portal coming this Friday, tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And we got some sneak peeks at that as well. Today's fashion picks, let us know what you think about them in the chat. We got the Rockstar glasses as well as the Jumbo Visma kit. And now we're going to talk about what we usually do at the beginning. What the heck have we been up to for the last week when it comes to riding, Zwift, and all things training? Let us know what you've been up to in the comments and what you think about the topics as well. Anna, how's it going?
Oh man, I'm a bit sick. It sucks. But riding wise, I got up early Monday morning my time and did a race. But you know when you actually don't know you're sick yet, because it was at like 5:30 in the morning, and so I got on and was like, man, I feel horrific. And then once I got off the bike,
getting up in the morning and sick feel like the same thing? Is that what you're saying?
no, but like you haven't registered because it was like the first day of sickness, so I hadn't registered that I
gotcha.
was actually sick until I got on the bike. I was like, man, I feel terrible, and then we went upstairs. I was like, no, I'm definitely sick. So I've been sick since then, which sucks. I haven't even been on the bike
Since which day? What day was it?
Monday, and today's
Monday.
Friday here. So, but I think that's like kids as well, right? Because I've got a 2, 4, and 6-year-old, and it's just everyone's kind of got it. So it's not a bad sickness, but when you're also sick and having to look after other people, the energy you have at the end of the day to like get on and do anything is not there. But over the weekend, I did do the Primoz Roglic ride. I mentioned it on the pod last week that I was super excited about it. It was a little bit of a flop. I
was wondering. So, how did it go? Because my sense on Primoz, whenever he gets in front of cameras or whenever he's either like totally engaged and he actually wants, like, this guy only does what he wants to do. It feels like that, like when it comes to him, like he's completely like, I'm talking to you or I'm not talking to you, and he just doesn't really seem to put on a show. So I was a little bit concerned about that side of it. If, like, from a Zwift perspective, I've never seen him Zwift before, So
I know. So I think Zwift probably needs to be a little bit careful. I know they do a great job. I think Mathieu van der Poel's rides are always really good. Like, he's chatty and talks, and I think like Zwift just needed to be really clear with Primoz what the point of it was, because for Primoz it was literally he just got on for 45 minutes and said nothing and just rode, right? And so that's sweet. Like, if that was the ride and it was like, hey, just come ride with Primoz as he does a cool down or something, like just but it was like, ask him questions about the Giro, Q&A with one of the best riders out there. I was like, oh my God, this would be amazing, because I really want to ask some questions. But people were asking questions and there's this like radio silence. I was like, oh. So like, it probably just should have not been sold as that, or
you have someone there standing next to him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you just have like a marketing person replying. So I think and I think because it was like announced really late in the piece, it literally was probably just Primoz being like, I'm gonna go do like a easy ride, and they were like, let's just have it, people join you, and he's like, okay. So, but the kit was cool, so that was like a bonus, and there were some cool people from the community, so we just like chatted amongst ourselves. but I kind of got off early and went for a run instead after that because I was like, oh, but and I think it just felt bad because some people, were a bit keyboard warrior-y, and I was like, oh, just I don't think do that. But anyway, it was
Really?
nice to
Oh, so it got
yeah,
a little heated about how it was
got a
going
little
down.
heated.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
ouch.
so that
They
wasn't like
came with an
so
expectation. The expectation, like,
yeah.
here's the thing though, like, if it's out there and it's said this way and then it doesn't happen that way, like, I'm sorry, like, we're just talking about what happened, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Like, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
ouch.
So there we go. But like up until getting sick, like man, I was like, I've been feeling good. Like I did a little bit of a like moved out of my base phase and did like a little bit of a like speed, more like power orientated workout, and was like, I think my FTP is higher. Like I was like, I feel all
Really?
right. Yeah. So
Whoa.
I've got kids' school holidays now, so it's that kind of I enforce like a 2-week break so that I have enough energy for them and do all this stuff. Went climbing with them, so I might go climbing again. Got into a bit of that, bit of like leg and upper body
Did
work.
you enjoy that? Did you enjoy the climbing? Like,
So
that
I don't
was.
know how. I mean, you seem like a bit of a. I mean, you mountain bike, so I don't think you have a lot of fear with this stuff. I feel like I get nervous when things are a bit out of my control, like so that
Really?
stepping back. Yeah. So
I mean, if your training
uh,
program's out of your control, or like if the pack does something you weren't
oh.
aware of, you flip out. So I mean, climbing. Oh,
So like the kids did it with me, and there's like this instructional video, and it's like climb to the top, but then make sure you let go and like rappel off. Don't climb back down. It had a big cross through it. Don't climb back down. I climbed to the top and I'm like, I don't want to rappel. So I just climbed back down. And my
oh my
4-year-old,
gosh! You broke the rules.
I know. And I got
You.
my 4-year-old's like, Mom, stop it. You're breaking the rules. Stop it. Stop it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm too scared to do this. But once I got that, it was sweet. Like it was good. So it was fun. I'll definitely do it again. And I like having kids when they start to do something and you're like, well, if they can do it, I'm going to go do it. And then you challenge yourself. So it was heaps of fun.
Right on. Awesome. Awesome. Well, you picked up on. You actually put it in the show notes that I've been doing Toad. How do you? So we talked about Toad, right? A little bit here on the program in the past.
Yeah.
And that's
And
how you know
then
about it, or is there other ways that you know about it? Because I saw plenty of the New Zealand project kits in the race, actually.
ooh. Oh, that's cool. I'm not going to lie. I was following a little bit of USA cycling this week because of nationals on. So because I was following that stuff, people are like, "Oh, have you seen blah blah at Toad?" So you kind of go down that little, social media trail. Yeah, and I'd seen that you were racing, so I wanted to hear about it.
Yeah, yeah. So it went really well. I ended up. So I haven't been on Zwift at all last week, but I got on now. There's like horrible smoke from Canada. Actually, there's a bunch of forest
Mm.
fires up there, and so like nobody's riding outside much right now in
Oh,
Wisconsin or the Midwest. It seems like, but I think it's clearing a little bit today. But I look outside and it's still slightly white. That's how much smoke is coming through right now. But so I've been jumping on Zwift this week. I've done a little bit of trying to get base back because Toad, for those that don't know, Tour of America's Dairyland is an 11-day series or tour. That's split into 2 series, and there's also an overall for the tour as well. So you can we had a mountain bike race that that I did the weekend before I started participating in Toad, and then I jumped into the Cheddar series last Tuesday, and I ended up actually taking. I was in it for the win, but I just couldn't be brave enough, like, because I was in for the win in the Cat 2. So Cat 1, Pro 1-2s all race together. So, like, the Cat 2s all have red numbers on, and the Pro 1s all have blue numbers on. Well, I still have a Cat 2 license on the road, and so I can race with the Pro 1-2s, and I'd rather race with them. That's where I belong for racing. And so, like, I'm trying to, like, be in it for the win, and then all of a sudden I didn't even know about the Cat 2 competition actually until like day 2 or 3, and then all of a sudden I noticed that there's this one guy who's always like following me around, and then I noticed that he has a red number on, and I was like, he's sprinting just me at the line at the end of the race, and I'm like, why isn't he trying to compete for up there? Like, what's? And then I figured it out. I was like, oh. And then once we all kind of figured it out, next thing you know, like there was a really obvious race within the race. And like we're all like not really paying that much because there's like some, now this is no excuse. Like there's some solo riders, like independents that are out there getting it done. And I don't know if any independents won any of the stages, maybe, but it's pretty difficult. I think everyone who won a stage or close to everyone who won a stage, and I think everyone who was on a podium even had a team. Like it's that intense of a high level, pro level racing. It's super, super, super high. Like actually some of the guys who came out from Cali who are actually on a vegan cyclist team, the Ride Bikes team, this guy Rex, I was talking to him. He's actually friends with Sweet, who's in the comments here. He told me that back home, he's stronger than 80% of the guys and can hold his own, is really, really good. He's like, here, it's 80-90% of the guys are stronger than me or as strong or stronger than me. And it's like almost impossible to hold my own. Like this, he said this was harder than Tulsa Tough. Like for some reason, Toad just brings in insane level. Like the German team, New Zealand team, there was a team coming. There was a team mainly made up of what seemed to be South American riders. I mean, it was international field with lead out trains, full gas. And if you're trying to be there, it wasn't necessarily the power. I mean, the last lap, yeah, every corner you're pushing 1,000 watts every single corner, and it's like 35 miles per hour, like diving corners. It has more to do with like, am I brave enough here to take this corner right now and fight for a position, and like the kind of respect, man, for fighting. I mean, the elbows are out and you're throwing a handlebar somewhere that you're like, are they going to come into me? Cause we're doing 35 and can that guy actually hold this line? You know what I mean? It's intense. It's pretty intense. Anyways, that's what I was doing for the last week at Toad. That's what the Toad thing that's been going on. Ended up third in the series. I lost it to, I was actually racing Enzo Hincampy. He's 15 years old, the kid. And I was racing
Oh my gosh.
Enzo,
Like George Hincapie's
kid every day. So he's on the EF. There's like a North American, I think, EF team that's like, it seems to be focused more on younger riders, this team. And so him and a couple of some of his other teammates from that team were really working well together, actually, to get them that second spot. So they got me just on the last day. I was fighting for first, and I was fighting him for not Enzo, but one of his teammates for second. And I ended up third overall. I ended up on the podium. You know, I'm like, here's old school veteran pro guy like on the podium with guys literally half my age, like holding up the cheese and whatever else is. You know, I got some, I think, coffee and Ben Cycle stuff, which is a local bike shop. But anyways, that's what I've been up to for the last week. There's my last week story.
I've just been Googling, Nathan, a map of America, which I like. I know America in general, but I was like, how far is that smoke coming down? Because someone in chat was saying it was coming down to Iowa. And I was like, oh, where's Iowa in relation to Wisconsin? So there we go. Like,
pretty close.
I can see why it's coming down.
Yeah,
you should go to Canada
was about
more.
5.
How close you are.
Well, that's close. I don't know about. That's like a 9-hour drive to go to Canada. Like that's like long ways.
Are you at the
I'm
top
at the bottom.
of Wisconsin?
I'm at the bottom of Wisconsin, Milwaukee area.
Oh, you should go to Chicago a lot.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's not really any reason to go to Chicago. Do you want to just go get stuck in traffic we have like a rivalry with Chicago. Oh man, now this is way off the topic, but like they call themselves the name that we gave them actually too. Okay?
Windy City.
No. They're fibs. Anyways, no, like there's like, and the Flatlanders, we call them the Flatlanders, and like there's all this like, there's a pretty strong rivalry like going on here. So now don't take that personally, guys. I just threw that out there as a joke, okay? Because it's a pretty yeah, like there's like you go to Illinois and you're like. Anyways, just there's a thing here, okay? Packers versus the Bears, tolls versus no tolls. Yet why are roads like this? The traffic, like there's this whole Wisconsin versus Illinois thing that comes out. But I may be going to Intelligentsia Cup, which is in Chicago, and I'm gonna love it there. And they have amazing pizza, and there is amazing things about Chicago. If you go to visit. for me, I just would, but I don't really like cities anyways. Like I don't even like visiting
Yeah.
Milwaukee all that much. So like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. There we go. Well, I've got that map up now. That makes way more sense. I was like, why is smoke coming from Canada? I was like, oh, right. You're
Yeah,
right
we're
there.
right there. We're right there.
So,
Yeah.
what should we talk
Are
about
we
this
talking about
Eurobike?
Zwift? Are we talking about Zwift? Like, is that what we're gonna
Yeah,
do?
well, actually, let's talk about Rolla, which
Yeah, this is
is quite
crazy.
interesting.
Like that came out of
Yeah.
nowhere, I feel like.
Yeah, like it totally did. I was kind of just flitting through DC Rainmakers because he's at Eurobike, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's going on at Eurobike. And he was really excited about this thing called Roller, and I've had a look at it. I was like, oh, this could actually like. I feel like we've kind of said before, competition for Zwift is always a good thing because it'll end up making everyone lift their game, which is great for us, the people who are using the platform. But this is kind of what I would see as a big competitor on the social and the like, what would you call it? Like the social fitness side of things. So not the racing side, but on the fitness side, I'm like, wow, this is impressive. Like, and I don't know,
But
like
then,
I'm not a
okay, go ahead, keep going.
so I'm
There's
not
just
a
a thing with the
graphics
social
person.
side.
Yeah, I'm not a graphics person, but the thing that I think is really, and this is why DC was really excited as well, was that they run, like their graphics are unbelievable. Out of any online platform, I'm saying they're by far the best. And they can be run on any device because they do the graphics on the cloud. So you pull the graphics. So you could have an old, dusty iPad and still have that amazing graphics, which I was like, wow, if you
I want
really
to know if
want
that's
that,
actually true. I want to know if that's
I'm gonna go
actually
give it a try.
true. That you could have an old dusty iPad and get those. I could see like now. Okay, a couple of things on the roller. If you haven't checked it out, DC Rainmaker, we'll go ahead and show this real quickly here. He did a great video about the announcement. You can see a lot of cool pictures here. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm actually showing this Forza like garage that you jump
garage is
into.
amazing.
Oh, it
Yeah.
feels so cool. Like seriously, you jump in, there's your bike, you get set up. I mean, I do get the feeling like I played a lot of the first Gran Turismo actually. When I on PlayStation, and I'm getting that sense again of like, ooh, I'm gonna upgrade my car and I'm gonna go ride around and get some parts for it and then get it upgraded again and go do this mission and whatever. Like that feels really cool. Now I don't know as far as fitness goes though, if people are really into that. The other thing here though, okay, so that's all really cool. Can you deliver on two things that make these apps work? Social. It doesn't sound like there's really an online component yet, like in that respect. From what DC Rainmaker was saying, like maybe coming in the future. Two, is the reason why that isn't there is because those kinds of streaming of graphics is really, really difficult to make happen in an MMO world. I don't know. Like, as soon as it becomes online, as soon as it becomes you're interacting with a lot of other avatar, I don't know. Like, what's the hold up there? And then on the graphic side of things, like streaming that kind of level of graphics, I'm wondering what the limitations are. Like, how far you can go with that. I don't know. I've never seen it work in like if I were gonna go play Apex or any kind of MMO competitive game. I've never really seen any platform get that done well.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a solo venture, like if you're gonna or solo adventure game is what it sounds more like. Like solo adventure games, I've seen the streaming of those done really well, like and having the higher end graphics. I don't know how far you can really push. Like you can get these amazing graphics on really, really bad hardware. I think even at certain points you might not be able to. But I don't know. We'll see how it takes, because if it is like solo adventure, I think the social aspect is going to be a really difficult hurdle there, and then you might end up with a lot of customer support in an area where, hey, I thought that this would be this great like this, where like the streaming of stuff might not work as that well. I don't know. I'd like to see. I want to see how it ends, how it hits.
Yeah, so I I was kind of looking at this, and we've talked about, say, indie velos come into the race space. It looks like rollers coming into this sort of fitness space, and then you've got the likes of RGT, MyWish, all of that. But like DC says is at the end of the article, is it really like how do you find traction when Zwift has got the social element kind of sewn up a bit? They've got so many users, it's so social. You can go join a ride and there'll be like a lot of people there. So it's sort of what I'm more hoping is that the players in here will, and I think we've, like, to be honest, I think we've seen this. Like, I have not seen a winter in New Zealand where we've had so much released from Zwift. Like, I mean, I know we're talking about them, but you've had the gaming controller, you've had climb portals, you've had like coffee stops, you've had, like there's way more stuff coming out and way more innovative than I've seen it in quite a while. Like, I think maybe in the pandemic, they were just trying to catch up to the amount of users that were growing and making sure that they had a stable platform. But now there's like some cool stuff. And I think a little bit of it too is that these competitors are kind of nipping at their heels. And so it's like, okay, guys, we can't just rest on our laurels and think everyone's going to stay with us. We need to like make sure they stay with us to have something awesome. So I'm like seeing Zwift do some pretty cool stuff, which has made me quite happy because it's, I think for a little while it felt like it was a little bit of a rest on our laurels. Like, oh, well, people don't have anywhere else to go, so we can sort of accept these sort of things people don't like, and that's fine. And now they're actively, I think, making the experience a bit better. So yeah, I like seeing these competitors come in. I might go give this a try just to see what it looks like. I've seen someone come into chat, which is super interesting, said that Rolla was originally built for students to be active. So it's got kind of an interesting origin story there. So kind of in the college space, I guess. So they say, and it's got running as well, similar to Zwift. So back in 2021, built for students. So yeah, that's an interesting one there. Another interesting one is that Rolla literally took the space that was supposed to be for MyWoosh. So I don't know what's happened to MyWoosh, but I think they ran ahead with a lot of prize money and maybe not enough verification, and that's come to bite them a little bit. And I think you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have the basics right, it's not going to be a great platform.
Yeah, for sure. Well, interesting new app. It'd be interesting how it ends up playing out. I really want to see as it launches how that cloud tech. That's always really interested me. Like, there's on a personal standpoint as well in other gaming spaces. I almost got a little offended when they said that you could stream the same graphics as my now quite a few years old, but still I did looked at the benchmarks recently, and a 1080 Ti still holds up pretty dang well. And I have a 1080 Ti NVIDIA graphics card, right, that I got, I don't know, like 5 years ago or something, or whatever, when they were the hot thing on the market. And when they said they could stream like top level I was like, ow, like no, like you can't stream my freaking Eagle 12-speed Rainbow SRAM either. Okay, no one's streaming my graphics card. Like, no, like not happening. So we'll see. I'm interested to see how that cloud tech can. I just always feel like when it tries to remove it from the physical local hardware, something's gonna be lost, and you're adding an extra layer, right? Like, imagine like I'm streaming Netflix and something's going on where like all of a sudden it kind of breaks up a little bit. And we're talking like they put in massive amounts of little buffering techniques and stuff to make sure you can keep watching your movie, right? Like, imagine you're playing the game and then like just a little something, you know what I mean? I don't feel
yeah,
like
but
that's
on the
gonna
flip
hit.
side, you have a huge fitness market who is not a tech market. And you could have people, just pulling out an iPad or running these things on an iPhone. And we saw that when Neokyo, which had, amazing graphics, got released. Like, I went and watched my parents go through that, and I was like, oh gosh, that's stuttery and terrible.
Yeah.
And it looked terrible. So I guess it's kind of...
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it is a good thing.
Yeah, it does enable a bit more. Like Zwift's doing a great job with like, here's the hub, and hopefully with it, here's the play controller. So that's great. But now it's kind of like, well, how do you make sure that whatever they're running at home, which could be anything, still has a good experience? So I think if they can nail that, that's good. But if this cloud one, I mean, I just don't know enough about it. But yeah, I thought that was super interesting.
So Racing Score has launched. Let's move on to the next topic here. That's really interesting. I haven't raced on Zwift in quite a while, but I was happy to see I'm a 917. Anna, I have a 917 score. Whatever, like, does that mean something to you?
No. I have no idea. I'm actually just opening companion and trying to see what I am.
Yeah, what do you
I haven't
got
raced in a
going
while
on
there either. I think the updates come to New Zealand a bit later. I don't even think I have a score. No,
You
I don't
have to have
yet.
a score. Are you serious? You don't have a score?
Nah, I don't have a score. How sad.
Wait,
no, I've got to click my profile. 699.
Okay, not bad. Not bad.
I don't even know.
Maybe you got to
like,
race
higher, better.
You need to take your racing more seriously. What's going on here? All right, yes. I'm going to define these just a little bit. There is.
Wait a sec. It's oh no, it's up to 1,000. So what are you? 999.
917. No, I'm 917.
What?
Yeah.
How?
It takes your last 5 races. It takes your last 5 races. I think is it the last? Hold on a second. 90 days. If you haven't done any races in 90 days, this is from Zwift Insider, your racing score will show up as or 0. In this case, if you were to sign up for a race that uses racing score for categories, your provisional score will be used to determine your category. So provisional score is now going back to an assumed categorization with 5-minute power for your last 90 days, essentially. If you finish 1 to 4 races last 90 days, then your racing score is visible. And so it is going towards. So the main point of racing score, though, which is really awesome, is results-based categorization. You are now earning your place through what you actually do in game. So rather than some sort of like, here's your FTP and we just assume that you belong here because of your FTP, you have to go and get a result. You have to go and play the game, and then off of that result, you then are placed somewhere. And then if you get better results, you go to where people are better at playing the game. If you get worse results, you go to where people are. You actually can't get downgraded, though. Like, it only goes
you can.
You do. You get downgraded, but it's like it's based off of your results in that, like, you don't get downgraded if you perform badly right now. It's just your last 90 days. Does that make sense? Like, instead of, I lost, so now I get downgraded right now. Instead, it's like, well, what are your best 90 days scores?
But this is interesting, right? So 90 days is like 3 months, give or take, right? So we're in like basically July. So it's like April, May, June. Yeah, it would be 90 days. Like, I haven't even raced 5 times in the last 3 months. I have like a lot of Tour of Watopia, and then I had 2 Zwift women races, one of which I did as a like cruise where I was just spinning. So I have 1 race result. So that sucks. I need to this is going to make me go race more.
That's the point. That is the exact point. That's what they want to see. They want to see you race more. So it looks like, I mean, literally, you just like proved the point. Like, you're like, oh, okay, I need to go race more. And nobody even did anything except for tell you how it works. And now you want to go race more.
No, we did do something. You told me your score and I said my score, and now I'm like a little bit pissed off. Now I need to like freaking get that out. I feel a bit disheartened. But okay, I think it's only on Z Racing coming up. So
yeah, it was open for the first 3 days. Like, I think it was Monday through Wednesday. It was open just completely. Like, every single race was scored. And then they backed it off to Z Racing. I think they wanted to capture a whole bunch up front, and then they wanted to go back into like a testing space to give people like an opportunity to test out, see how it goes, and not just like throw all this stuff at them right away. So
I like this because I think so. Yeah, the categorization system, the AutoCat system has proven interesting for like running an event. because it kind of hasn't quite worked for some people in the events I've run. But I quite like this because it will be a little bit more fluid, right? So at the moment, because I haven't raced a lot, and that is why my score is low. Okay. It's not because I'm not competitive, right, Nathan? I'm feeling all like nervous about my racing now. But I think now if they had it like live, I would be able to enter a race for that really low score that I'm currently sitting at and then kind of work my way up, right? So then essentially I could be just racing different people all the time because I'm getting better and better.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I think,
sweet. Okay, I quite like that.
I think also, with this, I have seen one complaint. Somebody saying, "Well, now the categorization, excuse me, is just going to be all the people who've got a really good sprint at the end, or anytime that there's a hilly race, it's just going to change it." Like these are two different people groups, right? Like one people group is like mad because it's just people who have a good sprint at the end. Another people group is like, "Oh, I'm not a climber, and anytime that there's a single hill, it's just going to totally wreck everything." And I'm just like, just go get scores and prove results and enter the races that you want to be a part of, like, and try and get those results, like, and how it ends up, like, the mindset of that mindset is so stuck on an assumed ability because we've been doing it for so long that way that it's almost like the racing scene has turned into a glorified group ride scene. Like, racing's about winning. Like what? Yeah. Like this is about trying to win. I mean, like, and even if it's like, you know, this saying of like it's you against yourself, and I'm kind of like, man, like I don't know about all that. But if you want to have that mindset, it's still about you against yourself in that race in some sort of way of winning, right? Like, and like, I don't know, just I feel like this is really, really good, but it's going to take some time for it to play out too. And so one thing that's a little bit frustrating for me and is that we're only using Z Racing. I understand why, and I do think it's a good idea. It's not a frustration with Zwift. It's just like, oh, let's just get on with it. Like where I'm like, I just really want to be in that space where we can compete intensely for some results-based categorization and work our way up a ladder to be competing amongst a group of people that are really, really good at the game. And I think this might even start when I've played other games that have results-based categorization like this, or like, you know, and you're earning your way into a certain tier, certain techniques start to come out that you would have never noticed before because there's such a larger pool that you're amongst. But now when you start getting to the super high pointy end and you're only put in with certain, I don't know if that's how it's going to work. I hope that we do get to a place that in the middle of a Zwift season, I enter a categorization and like, you know, it says A's are 749 to 1,000, but we jump in and it's all 900s. And I can see in a race situation, all the 900s are all, and then all the 950 pluses are really in a certain area, right? And then if organizers can then limit those numbers differently as well, where they can go, this is a 850 plus race, or this is a like, or whatever. In this categorization, we're going to do these this way. You'll really start to see some pretty cool, I think, tiered racing, you know, and then the experience of the user, I think, will get better because I think this will weed out, not weed out, I shouldn't put it that way. It will bring together people of very, very much more like abilities, actually, because it is results based. So we've been asking for this for 5-6 years, actually. When Zwift Power first launched the whole like assumed category thing, that was, you know, that was a hot debate for a really, really long time.
Yeah, okay. I'm seeing Tim Henson come into the chat. He said there's a bit of what would you call it? That perhaps it's not at the moment sitting there as results based. It's more of a scoring system. So I think there's some nuance and this isn't the end product. And I know that Eric had said that too. And if you want to read like some great commentary, go check out the article, and there's a whole lot of comments underneath.
Yeah, so excuse me if I'm going off and getting ahead. So I have gotten a little ahead. yes, the categories are
we
going to be
assume
staying
that's
the
where it's
same,
going.
but it's heading toward. Excuse me on that. Sorry about that, but it is heading toward results-based categorization. Race categorization right now will not change, with most races using categories based on category enforcement pace groups at this moment. For now, results-based categorization I think is where we are heading towards. So sorry if I didn't make that super clear up front, but it is not where it's at the moment. And so hence you couldn't have that anyways, as it's not released everywhere at the moment. I guess they could do a test on just Z Racing and see if, and
why not? Just do it.
Yeah, well, there might be some reasons why not, but I don't know if there are reasons that you really would have to worry about too much. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, just
an
over-engaged, passionate racing community. I'm sure they'll be sweet. That'll be great. Okay, before we get Barnes on, Zwift Portals was released. I haven't tried it yet.
No, Friday, tomorrow. It releases tomorrow.
Oh, Zach, I couldn't work out the time difference. So, okay, Friday. Because I'm in Friday now.
You're in Friday.
I'm kind of like, Friday. It's coming out Friday.
Noon. Yeah, gotcha.
Friday noon, which is for me Saturday night. So there we go.
Noon PDT. Pacific time. Noon Pacific time. Just so everybody knows.
So while I'm getting back from sickness, I might actually get on and do those as like some low cadence effort. I've seen, so they've released what they kind of look like, so that the roadworks on the volcano was a climb portal entrance. So there we go. And then the other one is on the France map. It's awesome because it coincides with the Tour de France. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm not having any judgment till I go give it a try. So yeah, although the one thing I was like, oh, and I know Eric Schlange agrees, is damn, give us some like unlock and some swag at the top of these. Like, that's probably the only thing. Like, that's why I kept climbing up the Alp, was to get those freaking Millensteins. And so I think it would have been really rad. And I know that I'm obsessed with like the garage and the fashion, but like, man, imagine like a jersey unlock that said like Tourmalet, or a jersey unlock that said something else, like all the climbs, and it was just all like a jersey, and you get the little like sewn on badges on the jersey. Just something like that would have given me so much more motivation to go do it. Because if you haven't seen, they're more of a gamified look. So it's not sort of like real scenery, which I'm not for or against because I haven't tried it yet. But if you're not getting the sort of the new road look and feel, then man, come on, let's get some swag in the garage.
I do think that that's going to be coming down the road. Definitely with the partnership with the Tour de France. It is all climbs that are in either Tour de France Femme or in the Tour de France, and so I think with that, getting these out as quick as possible was the priority, so that they were there for July. And so perhaps those extra goodies just weren't able to be tacked on quite yet, but I agree 100%. Like, there needs to be something like
incentive.
The wheels, the Mellenstein wheels. I mean, outside of like crazies like me who just want to be in demolishing myself on a climb, and yay, I'm going to go hurt myself on this climb. Like, you need some other incentive 100%.
Oh my gosh. Like halfway up Tourmalet. Yeah, I need something. I need something to get me that last half of the way. But I'm excited
I want to know
go
what Barney
try.
thinks. We should bring him in. Bring him in. I want to know what he thinks. So everybody, James Barnes riding for Next Esports, but we're now naming him for the first time in history. He is an inaugural Olympic Esports finalist and as well as winner. Barney has been on the program quite a few times. Good to have you back, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, great. Like, what an experience. Firstly, it's just, that was, I went in going this like, it's the Olympics, so it's, it's going to be something. And then got to the venue for the first time, in Singapore, never been there. And then, we walked there through the underground shopping centers to get there, and popped up in the convention center. And it was a scale that none of us ever expected. It was huge. It was mind blowing. The photos can't even put it into perspective. And we snuck into the venue and saw the stage, and we're like, oh, we're going to be on this massive stage. it's gonna be. It was huge. Like you couldn't even like I can't wrap my head around it. It's just unbelievable. And then yeah, it just the whole production value, like the level of quality of the production, everything is just yeah, super professional. Super. It was just unbelievable experience. And then to walk out with the win was just unreal and another dream come true. But it was amazing to meet the 15 other Zwifters. You know, meeting Martins on the shuttle bus at 11 o'clock at night in Singapore after flying, and I could see him from the dark. And I'm sitting in the dark of the bus, and I yelled his name, and you can see him look up, and he's like, "Who's this bugger shouting my name?" And he gets in, and it was like weird because it was like meeting an old friend. So that was the really cool thing about it, is that it was just chilled vibes and just like really good time with everybody, and it's such an awesome experience.
Oh, Barnes, I've got so many questions for you related to it. First, though, do you have the trophy near you? Can you show us what it looks like?
Sorry, yeah, I do. I packed it away because I got told when I go to the office that I have to take it with me to the office. Get it out.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, while you're doing that, I'll pose the question as well, which is, I mean, you've done Grand Prix racing, you've done the UCI Worlds, and now you've done this Olympic E-Series. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
For those who are listening
it's
to the
3.5 kilos.
3.5
By the way.
kilos. Holy cow.
It is a
I'm going to show a picture too here real quick of you holding that with Olympic rings above you.
That was so cool. Okay, so a funny story about that. We weren't told about the fireworks. So when the fireworks went off, it was basically all touching our hands.
I was wondering, was it hot?
And I absolutely pooped my pants. No, it didn't. It wasn't hot at all. But I promise you, I needed a new pair of bib shorts after that. That was because it also went off with a bang as well. So I got absolutely it was hysterical because Martin was warned about it, but we didn't hear about it. Like Lo, myself, and Miley, we didn't hear it. So he kind of was aware of it, and then we all heard the bang, and we were like, "Oh, yeah, no, that was funny."
Oh my gosh, it is epic. So I watched it all with you guys, and I've got to say, like, very, very engaged in what it looked like, like you said, the production value. It just seemed awesome. And I mean, from a racer perspective, how did you find, I mean, the format was vaguely similar to Worlds with the 3 events, but you were in teams. So what did you think of that format, and how did that, from a racer, what was it like compared to the other formats you've done?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to explain it, is it's very much like the World format. But then again, you're relying on the consistency and the strength, obviously, of your teammates as well. The goals set us up so well. It took all the pressure off Martin and myself, and then we just had to, Martin just had to finish the job. So I really enjoyed it. They did a really good work with balancing the teams. Unfortunately, I think there was about 4 riders that actually ended up not being able to come because of injuries or crashes or and such like that, which is unfortunate. So maybe it's not the teams that they wanted, but I really enjoyed the format because it did showcase a lot more of I'm gonna say variety, but it didn't just show one type of rider. It showed Zwift racing as a whole. But then what was really cool, how everybody's supporting each other, everybody's getting behind each other, everybody's walking up to each other across the teams and cheering each other on and speaking. We had one of the UCI guys coming to us the next day, naming us by name, and we had no idea who this guy was. And he's like, that was the one thing that was really cool to see, was the sense of community and sense of support that you guys had for each other. And we like all the other events that I've watched, obviously there were no other team events, but he said that was the one thing was lacking. You could see there was none of that like fire in the belly of each other, like to support each other even between competitors, he said.
I was wondering, so yeah, with the whole, I mean, they had you walk, for those that didn't watch it, they had you walk on stage, and then you were on watt bikes, and in front of you, you had, what kind of a screen was that you were interacting with?
It was a tablet device.
It was a tablet device. Okay, gotcha. And then, you waited for your turn to go, and it separated out into different rounds for the listeners that didn't watch it through, different rounds that, like you said, highlighted different abilities, and you had to pick within your team who you thought would be the best across men's and women's competitions for those specific events, and there were 3 different events. Correct? Is that how it's working?
Correct. Yeah. So basically, there's 4 riders per team, 2 men, 2 women. The first race was the eliminator, which both men and both women, obviously, each men would race the men and the women would race the women. So then both 2 riders would race, and then there would be then the sprint race, which only one of the 2 riders would race, and then there would be the climb, which only one of the 2 riders would race.
Got it.
And
So
then you
both
accumulate
participated
points
in the
through all of
first
that.
one for eliminator, and then in
Correct.
the second ones it was climb and sprint, and then you chose your climb and you chose your sprinter for the men and women. Got it.
Correct. Yes.
Got
Yeah. And then basically whoever had the most points at the end won.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And it seemed to really
Yeah.
go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, it was engaging for me from start to finish because of that. It was literally watching you guys on stage as well, and also seeing like who these people were, right? Like, I mean, I know you and what you look like, but I was like, oh wow, that's that person there, and that's that person there, and you guys were like pumped. Like, there was a moment when Jackie Godby got interviewed. I mean, she's a teammate of mine, so it was cool to see her racing, and she like lost her shit, man. She's just like,
Yeah.
get in amongst it, the crowd. Give us. It was the energy on stage, like, was unreal. Like, did you anticipate that it was going to be that kind of energized, or was it just the whole shebang that made it like that? Because you guys were all like next level energy.
No, like even just the energy from the crowd, like we basically had a full house in front of us, and then you had Rob Hatch like calling it. You have Twitter and then Hannah calling it. It's like, this is the big league. This is so we were all just getting super hyped up. My heart rate was 10-15 beats higher than it would normally. I was just running off pure adrenaline. It was so awesome, and I think we were all hyped up to the event as well, because we knew what stage we were on, and we all had this, you could see, as you said, like meeting each other, we all had the same passion for the sport. So we all wanted to just put on a really good show and just showcase our passion and our love for the sport and like drive cycling forwards. And as you said, it was also funny because meeting each other, some of us were like, oh, you're taller than I expected. Oh, you're shorter than I expected. People are like, and the common one for me is they're all like, oh, James, we thought you were taller. And I'm like, sorry, I'm a bit shorter than you thought, and, because we all had to do, it was really cool. It was really cool like that. And just, Martins and I are exactly the same height. But then there's the weight difference in terms of the build, which just shows you, the difference between riders. And it was great. And to answer the question in chat, yes, it was Santini kit. And it was, we can run through the whole procedure of everything and like how we went through, the days and stuff, but it was jam packed the first few days and just unbelievable experience. And just to meet all the Zwift, but the people behind Zwift as well, Sean, Johnny, Henry, Kim Little was there as well. And like all the guys behind it that have been putting on all the events for us for all the years. And then again, just getting to sit down and chat with them as well. What an awesome experience just to get to know them as well and just to talk to them as well.
So did you have any experience with any of the other esports? Or like was it like the Zwift thing happened, came in, and then was isolated from the other events? Or was there a full like Olympic experience across all of the other esports that were happening?
So obviously you could go and interact with other players as much as you wanted if you needed to, but obviously, for us, we did, you bumped into a few of them at the opening ceremony, and you bumped into them around. We had on the first day we had a briefing session with the Olympics, and then we had an anti-doping talk, which obviously sadly for the cycling past, it was like nursery school for us, but very serious to see the chess players and the Fortnite players and these young kids as well, for the Fortnite there, and hear us, sitting at the back of this anti-doping, we've gone through it all, and we all just answering all the questions, and everybody's looking at us, and we're like, yeah, no, sorry, it's just, we've been through this before. And the anti-doping lady was just like having a good laugh because she was like, okay, does anybody else know the answers? And we were just in there like kind of just murmuring all the answers under our breath. As it was quite funny. But yeah, we did have interaction with other players and like the other chess players, and and just general, and all the other shapes and sizes and other sports, which was really cool as well.
Did you stay for the whole of the Olympic events, like all of them, and did you watch any of the other ones?
I wasn't there for watching all of them. I was there in and out because again, then we were meeting IOC and UCI delegations at the Zwift like stand as well, which would roll through every now and again, which would be told, and as Zwift would ask, could you guys, be there? Obviously, it's really cool. We got to meet the head of sports and security from Singapore was one of them. We got to meet the IOC president, deputy president. We got to meet the UCI president again and hang out with him for a bit at the UCI stay at the Zwift stage. So it was really cool to to share the passion for cycling and obviously Zwift as well, as the part of it, but then just to kind of share the passion with other people.
So, James, on that, because I'm assuming, because I saw him shake your hand on stage, was David Lapatient, who was the president of the UCI, and obviously has quite a senior role. I know he also covers the esports side of things, but I think he's moving up the ranks in the IOC and cycling. Did you get a vibe from the IOC or the UCI on how they were viewing this whole thing, like the virtual sport side and what you guys were doing, and whether this was a sort of serious contender?
Yeah, I did. But first, a funny story on the stage when he handed me the trophy. I hadn't quite gripped it, and by the time I shook his hand, he let go of it. And I nearly dropped the thing on his toe, and I absolutely nearly I was so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't drop this thing. But yeah, the vibe from one of the guys we spoke ended up talking to the UCI for a while, and by chance, but definitely from him as well, is that they didn't expect the you know within the cycling, they didn't their expectations and what they thought the event would be got completely blown out of the water. Because again,
Really?
none of them had watched a live event. None of them had watched the cycling, like the racing, too much. And then then they saw the racing, and then as I said earlier, the camaraderie and the team spirit and that whole everything there. They were like, that just took our expectations even further and just blew them even, just made it. They said it was cool because it left a warm fuzzy feeling inside. That's you're giving somebody the carrot that anybody else could end up competing at the Olympics Esports Week and racing at that level, and driving, and maybe get somebody else riding a bike, and but then there's also the community there, and they're supporting each other and helping each other. So it's not just you're not just seeing one guy on his behind the steering wheel of Gran Turismo, sitting there driving, and it's all focused, or one guy behind his tablet, doing the sailing or the tennis or the baseball. It's a team. It's very much a community, very much a team sport as well, on top of the individual performances.
Yeah, so I went through and watched bits of all of them. I watched the whole one of you guys, but I watched bits of all the other ones, and I actually ended up ranking them. So on whether they were actually a virtual sport, which I kind of, in my mind, is like where you guys are actually up there doing physically something on stage,
Yep.
or whether they were gaming and sitting behind a tablet, like you said. And then how engaging it was for me. So obviously for you guys, it was like virtual sport and highly engaging for me. The other one I really enjoyed actually was the dancing one, where they were up on stage doing dance moves.
Shame those poor guys had such technical issues. But yes,
Yeah,
that was awesome. Taekwondo, that was cool.
yeah.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
But then it was quite interesting because I went back and looked at the like viewerships of them, and e-baseball, which I honestly found like one of the most boring things I've ever seen, has had like
Okay.
it's almost got 1 million views.
It's 1.3 million.
So
Yeah.
okay, so why? Because it is unbelievably huge in Korea and Japan. It is massive, and it's been that platform's been going since 1994. So it's massive.
Right.
It's old. It's matured. It is huge. It's unbelievable. We spoke to we actually, Martins and I went and tried it out and had a bit of fun with it, and we asked him about it, and he said, yeah, this you have no idea the scale of it. It's like League of Legends and Dota and Call of Duty in Korea and Japan. It's another level.
Oh wow. Okay, because that I was shocked that had so many views, and that explains that. The other one I really really disliked was archery, where they were literally on their phones doing the like
tic-tac-toe,
shooting the arrow. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's not. I think I rated what you guys were doing and the dancing side really high, because it was for me watching people get active. the baseball, I can see they got a big the big following, and I found the sailing, like I kind of got it, but it was a little bit boring. I mean, do you think when the IOC was watching it that they put more value on the physical sports, like what you guys were doing, where you were actually moving your body?
I think so, but then also you got to remember as well, it also wasn't a showcase of physical. Look at the sports, like especially the sailing, and obviously a little bit like the archery and the baseball. There's tactics involved too. There's skill involved with the sailing and the wind shear and and per se that, and the baseball, which obviously we didn't understand it, but which baseball player you used, which had these strengths and these attributes and positioning. They were controlling all of the players. They were controlling the catching and the fielding and all that. So it wasn't just a case of push a button, hit the ball, and off you go. It was there's obviously it's not, they're not active per se, but there's a lot of skill involved in understanding the game. It's like us with Zwiftcraft and understanding the small details in the Zwiftcraft and understanding the how to use the terrain to our advantage. It's the same way as them using and understanding which player to use and how to the wind shear, the sailing tactics and the graphics and the interactions, from what I understand, are also very similar to real life. So you have to have a full understanding of sailing, the rules of sailing, and that there. So and that was also something that the UCI seemed to mention as well, that it was also, they had to be very open and understanding that it's not just the sport and the physical, but it's also the skill side as well, and the technical side of it that is required to do these, I'm gonna say sports, or do these events.
What really grabbed me out of the other ones, and I didn't watch a whole lot of the, I skimmed through a lot of them, and then I landed on whatever like grabbed me, and I kind of did that on purpose. And interesting enough, the time trials through the Fortnite built worlds, I'm not really into Fortnite, actually. I don't really like it as a game, honestly, but I immediately was like, oh, this person got that time. Okay, what did these other people do to get a better time? And then you're watching them live, and it was like on repeat. And that's, and immediately I recognized why I was pulled in, because it was on repeat quickly to watch a time trial, to watch whether or not somebody was more skilled than other people at getting a better time through how they were able to go through this world, and that there were different aspects to it. So if you didn't watch the Fortnite shooting gallery, or I don't know, it was almost like a Ninja Warrior or something, where like you had to go through a section and hit targets while your avatar was moving through this world in different phases. And like it had one phase where it was like a shotgun phase, and it was like hitting larger targets, but also your avatar's moving. Another one where it was like further and further and further away targets, and then you had to like see how well they could build, and I immediately was caught by that because of this, like you said, Barney, the skills that were on display to get better and better competitive times. And that's the only reason I think also that like when I watch field sports and there's a repeat over and over, when somebody, has a javelin, or someone's, trying to launch themselves over a really, really, really high pole, like, well, how high can they go? And this person beat that person, and this person beat that person, and it's on repeat over and over again. That's what catches us.
But also, I think it's from your background as well. You'll know it as well within your League of Legends. Not League of Legends. Now I've just forgotten the name now. Whatever it was called that you played. Nathan,
Apex?
come help me here.
I played all the
there you go.
FPS
Apex
games.
Legends.
I played them all.
Apex Legends.
Played
Then
them all.
it's the same thing there. You see how they you see how they do it, and you want like, okay, how do they do it? And you want to learn from it, and you see how it's that whole competitiveness as well. It's the same thing with the cycling. Anna's eyes lighting up in the ranking systems, and you got a high ranking. It's like, how did you get that? And it's that whole thing as well. It's just it drive. Within the people that are competitive within it, and not just taking it casually, it drives you to do better, drives you to do it next level. And what was really cool is that virtual taekwondo, that was unbelievable to watch. How fast they moved in real life was just another level. I felt sorry for them, because you could see every now and again their tech freaked out, And I think that was a case of everybody had small issues with tech issues as well, because they just didn't expect a lot of them. And so you would see every now and again the legs would freak out and the legs would be like up hanging in the air, because I'm guessing of interference. But it was just really cool to see that live, because again, that was very similar to Zwift. That was a physical sport, but also in a virtual representation as well.
In Barnes, did you see any of the? Obviously, it was one close to my heart because we sent a couple of our high performance juniors over. The duathlon where they were doing the running and the biking.
Yes, we watched that. I watched that live, the whole thing live. That was cool. That was really cool to watch them live, and it was really cool to see them that they chose the juniors and the youngsters to do it, to give them that experience and give them that that kind of, like, I'm going to call it the carrot. If they keep performing, they're doing well. This is where they could be going, and to see you see them get super excited and their eyes light up about the whole the whole experience, and then getting stuck into it, and then again supporting each other and driving the whole sport forward. It was really cool too. And bumping into obviously another two New Zealanders that had no idea we were going there, and like, hey, I'm also here, and they were like, oh, another one. Thomas, and it's quite funny to see that.
I love that they were like, I'm calling you a New Zealander, but I love that there were like 3 New Zealanders up on stage across those events. And like, when, I don't know, I would have thought bigger countries, more participants, but New Zealand's obviously right into the esport. So, I mean, I think this is a bit of I know the answer to this question, but I kind of want to know the whys, as well as, would you do it again? Would you go and do this kind of event again?
Yeah, of course. She's like, oh man, that was, like, we were all talking about it now after. It's like, can we go back and just go back to that like, or just chilling with each other and hanging out with each other as Zwifters, and just sharing that. Just it was really cool, because we all just got to hang out and just chill out. Like, because again, we've raced each other for many years. I've raced with Zach since being on Next for 2 years, and Tepi for 4 years per se, but we've never met each other. And just hanging out, like, it was again like a group of old friends hanging out together, because we went exploring Singapore a lot together and just had dinners and stuff together. So again, we were just kind of, would break into smaller groups if people wanted to do certain things, but then we would always generally kind of all just sticking together. Ben was always training, which was always hysterical. He's always either running or swimming, which is funny because he's got Ironman World Champs in 10 weeks. So obviously he was just full train mode. But yeah, it was a really cool experience just to hang out with everybody, and just, as I said, it was just like old friends all meeting each other.
Was there any learning lessons that you were like, okay, I mean, because it was an exhibition event, what would you see as great and amazing, like takeaway, and what do you see as like Zwift and the community could have learned from this event and interaction specifically with the Olympic platform?
The event itself, I think, worked really well. Obviously the course for me personally didn't favor me 100% and my style 100%, as because I was, that eliminator race, I was suffering from day dot, and just trying to just slog myself over those hills and get as far as I could. And eventually the wheels just fell off. But obviously you're always going to get courses favoring each other, so that's not really a thing for me to say that's a learning. But the biggest learning, I think, is that the need for wired connections. Everything has to be a wired connection. So within our case, we were on the watt bikes. There was, from the training room from the setup that we did upstairs to downstairs, there was massive signal interference issues, which were causing the shifters to bug out, and we couldn't shift gears every now and again. And then that was obviously then evident with the Just Dance, where it just failed on them completely with the signals. And then same thing with the Taekwondo, you can see the signal interference issues coming. So that's where the need for everything to be wired comes, because you've got the stage lights, so it's something that, of course, like, I'd understand that why they didn't foresee it and didn't understand that it was going to come, because you don't ever sit in those environments ever and train in the environments, because upstairs, when we had all the 16 bikes right next to each other, there was no signal interference issues between shifting gears and stuff. But then you put it downstage with all the lights and all the Wi-Fi and all the antennas for the microphones. It was just too much on the 2.4 4 megahertz
Yeah.
frequency, gigahertz frequency, and just yeah. But again, we were all in the same situation, so we all just had to learn to deal with it, and whoever adapted to it, you could see them just kind of moving on with it and just getting going with it.
So some of the tech protocol, and we don't get into the weeds with that. Wi-Fi specific might be able to solve some of that and stay wireless, perhaps, if everything goes to a Wi-Fi protocol because it's direct.
Wired protocol.
Yeah,
protocol.
wired. Yeah, I agree with wired, but just anyways. Llama's hard on it. Yeah, we'll go in the weeds on that, and that's a longer topic, and we do need to move on because Anna's got a hard stop today. So you're going to jump in with us on our rating today, I think, for our jersey pick as well. A jersey pick and a garage pick. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to head on.
Yeah,
next.
I always like your opinion here, Barnes.
Yeah, so
let's
go with the Jumbo Visma first. So go ahead,
This
Anna.
was me on the Primoz ride. And I took these because I was getting a bit bored, so I just started taking pictures of the jersey. And also with Tour de France starting this weekend, I thought this was a notable choice. But I didn't realize that they had constellations on the back of their jerseys, which you can kind of see there. So I really like this jersey in game. I'll give it a 7, I think. But Barnes,
7.
What do you reckon?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think a 7.
Oof.
I like it.
Yeah, I'd agree, like 7, like 8, because if the constellations were unique to each for a reason, like for each event or each, the stars at that point, which is really cool and small detail. I really enjoy that uniqueness of it, and it has a deeper story to it that you have to ask them or find out about rather than just looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably like showing my cards here about one of my favorite teams. 9. I give it a 9.
Oh, whoa!
I really like that kit, actually. I really, really, and I think for some reason it pops really well in game in a way that is different than other kits. This one really stands out to me in game specifically too. So
I'll give you that,
done a
Nathan.
good job. Yeah. So all right, and then the garage pick of the week. This is actually Gabriella actually picked this one for us. She says these are her favorite go-to in-game garage pick glasses.
Oh gosh.
She was happy she was going to be on the. She was happy she was going to be on the show this week, and you guys immediately are like, now the Rockstar ones, they're great. I think they're great.
It's a 2 from me. I'm not into those. I would never wear those ever, real life or in game.
Taking the fifth.
Oh man!
I'm not a fan, but I'm also not like, don't hate them. It's one of those. I'm like, I'll say a 5 then per se, just to be purely on the fence, because I think it's a case of whatever the rest of the outfit goes with, and then the personality behind it too.
It's a personality.
Well, I mean,
thing,
Gabby pulls it off. Her avatar looks good. Like Gabby pulls it off. I wouldn't pull it off. I don't think. Yeah, so they're not for me.
Yeah, they're definitely the Rockstar. Are an interesting. You got to put them with the right. They have the beatnik feel. They're supposed to, right? So, I'll give them a 6. I'm just gonna give them a 6. Yeah, that's where they're at for me.
Okay.
All right, those are the fashion picks for the week. We always like to know. Sorry, Gabrielle. Everybody's like, no way. You guys just aren't rock stars. That's what Sweet says. I think that's actually a thing. I mean, like the Rockstar glasses, you got to be able to pull those off because there's a reason why they're called that, right? I mean, those are total Lennon glasses. Like, come on, the Beatles.
Yeah, okay. No, not for me.
I'm not saying that they're for me or for anybody else. I'm just like, kid, like we got to admit that there's a certain personality that can pull those off. Like if Lennon can wear them, like, and there's pictures of him everywhere. Well, okay.
Oh no.
So, well, that's it for us this week. Then we're gonna get Barnes in on our. What are you doing for the next week? What are you doing, Barney?
Hopefully riding outside tomorrow. I'm hoping it's going to be dry. I'm looking for
Is there anything coming up? What's next for you when it comes to like esports and everything? Quick, like, are you getting ready for
the next thing for esports? ZRL season, hopefully, and then hopefully there's something else in the works that we're going to hear about. I'm fingers crossed, that we're going to hear about. But then obviously, I think I'm going to be joining in finally now. I can jump into that OG race series. So you'll be seeing me on my Thursday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, it looks like Broom
And a
needs a
few
lead out,
coffees,
man.
hopefully.
Looks like Broom
Yeah,
needs a
no,
lead out,
I'll
man.
be there for
after
him.
yesterday. So yeah, right on. Anna, what about you? What are you up to? Are you getting well?
Yeah, getting better. Hopefully, I'm gonna just do some easy climb portaling. Just hit as many of those portals as I can over the weekend for some low cadence grind efforts that don't make me cough. I don't think. And then it's kids' holiday, but then I'm going into the build phase for some duathlon racing. So I'll probably do some racing because my race score is so freaking bad, and that's stuck in my head now.
Actually,
We'll get it up there, Anna.
that might be a thing for me now. Now that you say that, we'll see. It's a lot of training. We have a 3-week break between Wars Racing, Wisconsin Off Road Series. So this weekend's training. I need some extra base, so I think we're gonna ride out to Madison and back if we can. If the smoke goes away, otherwise, it's not a bad idea. Racing score. I might look at some tiny races. Or, I like
Yours is high enough, Nathan. You just don't race. Let me race. Let me
Yeah,
get ahead of you, and then you can start racing.
Oh,
again.
but the tiny races aren't race scored, so I have to do Z racing only. Man.
Aha.
Okay.
They all have scored, by the way. Just saying.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. You can catch all of these podcasts over on ZwiftCommunityLive.com or go ahead and search Zwift and the Wrap. This was episode number 50. We'll be back at you for number 51 next week. For myself and Anna and Barney, thanks a lot for tuning in. And as always, right on.